First, we had Juror B29. She came out and she was one of the 5 jurors in the Zimmerman case that was white. Now, a new juror has come out, B29. She's obviously the one minority juror in this case. She's Puerto Rican, and she spoke to ABC News and said many interesting things. And one of the main takeaways I have here is the amazing difference in perspective between her and Juror B29, who happened to be white. We're going to talk about that, but first, let's hear from her.
What was your first vote?
My first vote was second-degree murder.
Second-degree murder.
In between that 9 hours, it was hard. A lot of us that wanted to find something bad, something that we could connect to the law. For myself, he's guilty because the evidence shows he's guilty.
He's guilty of?
Killing Trayvon Martin. But as the law was read to me, if you have no proof that he killed them intentionally, you can't say he's guilty.
Did you want to step out at all? Did you want to
I was
quit?
the juror that was going to give him the hung jury. Oh, I was. I fought to the end. I mean, it's hard for me to sleep. It's hard for me to eat because I feel that I was forcibly included in Trayvon Martin's death. And as I carry him on my back, I'm hurting as much as Trayvon Martin's mom is. Because there's no way that any mother should feel that pain.
But you feel in your heart of hearts that you and the jury approached it and came with a decision, and you stand by that decision to this day?
I stand by the decision because of the law. If I stand by the decision because of my heart, he would have been guilty.
I know that you've heard some people have said, point blank, they've said, George Zimmerman got away with murder. How do you respond to those people who say that?
George Zimmerman, George Zimmerman got away with murder. But you can't get away from God. And at the end of the day, he's going to have a lot of questions and answers he has to deal with. The law couldn't prove it, but, you know, the world goes in circles.
Well, that is very interesting on a number of counts. First of all, she says that she felt that the evidence did show that he was guilty. Now you're saying, well, how come she acquitted then? She says, well, even based on the evidence, they had to show intent, and they couldn't show intent. That's another interesting question, because on manslaughter, it's not that clear. Oftentimes, manslaughter, you don't have to show intent. So you'd have to look at how they were instructed, whether that instruction was clear and accurate, and whether all the jurors understood exactly what the law was on the manslaughter charge. On the second-degree murder charge, which is what she was initially tempted to go with, yes, she's right. You would have to prove intent. And it's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, hey, you know what? I thought he did it, but they couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he had the intent to do it, so I voted not guilty on second-degree murder. In fact, if that's what a majority of the jury thought, then I'd say, well, look, the system did work. That's how it's supposed to work. You have to be sure beyond a reasonable doubt. But on manslaughter, and that's why I said, looking at it from the outside, I thought it should be manslaughter, because I wouldn't have convicted on intent. But he did pursue Trayvon. He caused the situation that led to the killing of Trayvon Martin, and he pulled the trigger. To me, that's manslaughter, right? So it's fascinating when you get into the minds of the jurors, the different perceptions that they have. And here, she's obviously looking at it from the perspective of a mother. She's apparently a mother of 8. She's looking at it from the perspective of the Martin parents. And whereas when we heard from juror B29, it appeared that she was coming at it almost totally from the perspective of George Zimmerman. In fact, if you remember, this was a clip where she talked to Anderson Cooper about whether they made the right decision. Watch.
When you lay your head tonight on the pillow, in your heart and in your head, you are 100% convinced that George Zimmerman, in taking out his gun and pulling the trigger, did nothing wrong.
I'm 101% that he was that he should have done what he did, except for the things that he did before.
You mean he shouldn't have gotten out of the car, he shouldn't have pursued Trayvon Martin, but in the final analysis, in the final struggle,
When the end came to the end,
he was justified.
he was justified in shooting Trayvon Martin.
Totally different perspective. Does race play some role in it? Look, people grow up with different perspectives based on their race. Of course they do. It's not to say that it's the only factor. For example, Juror B37 didn't have any kids. Juror B29 had 8 kids. So could she have related more to the Martin parents because of her kids? Of course. That's why it's important to have different perspectives on the jury. I mean, as you listen to that Anderson Cooper interview, and he has already done the full interview, obviously, we ran parts of that. The full interview with Juror B29 is going to be tomorrow morning on Good Morning America with Robin Roberts. As you listen to her story, it seems like night and day. One is saying, like, once the fight started, so too bad. It doesn't matter who started the fight. Well, you know, and Zimmerman had to do what he had to do. And she seemed to have believed, if you watch the full interview with the earlier juror, B37, the white juror, she seemed to believe Zimmerman's perspective almost completely, that Trayvon had started the fight. I don't know why anybody would believe that. You know, and maybe that's how much our, you know, different perspectives affects our perception of what happened that night. I look at it and I think, we have the guy on tape saying, I'm following him. We have the 9/11 dispatcher saying, don't follow him. Of course Zimmerman started the confrontation. Who swung first? It's impossible to know because Trayvon's dead, and Zimmerman is obviously wants to get off the murder charge, and of course he's going to say Trayvon started it, right? Logically, it would appear that it was Zimmerman, but you don't know, and that's where I sympathize with Juror B29 here. If she says, look, we didn't have enough evidence for intent. Did Zimmerman go in there and start the fight to want to kill Trayvon? Not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, even though I think he did it, and he got away with murder. So if the whole jury thought like she did, I would honestly feel much better about it. I would say they did the best they could, and the state couldn't prove their case. Now, again, the different jurors had totally different perspectives. They didn't all think that way. The one thing, of course, I disagree with is she said, it's okay, you can't get away from God. He seems to have gotten away from God because, you know, that's all right, but that gets into religious perspectives, and bless her heart, she's got to sleep at night, and obviously she was racked with not just indecision here, but guilt over a situation she was forcibly put into, in her words, and she shouldn't feel guilty about it. You know, you serve as part of the jury and you do the best you can, right? And it wasn't her fault that Zimmerman pursued Martin that night or shot him that night.